time. Well, you are watching the live visuals from the Western Cape High Court, where we're hearing the DA's bid to remove Hlaudi Motswaneng from the SABC. Now, the DA says Motswaneng is not fit to hold any position at the SABC and should be removed immediately. We do apologize for this interruption. Let's cross live now to the National Assembly in Cape Town, where President Jacob Zuma is about to begin his last oral Q&A session this year. You're watching SABC News. What you're seeing now is live visuals out of the National Assembly in Cape Town, where President Jacob Zuma is about to begin his Q&A session, the last one for this year. Speaker Baleka Mbete is addressing MPs. Let's listen in.
On Tuesday, 22nd November, I indicated that I would rule later on matters raised in the House. There are three issues I wish to deal with. The first one is the recognition of members wishing to speak. Rule 92 provides, amongst others, that a member may raise a point of order at any time during the proceedings of the House in terms of the procedure prescribed in Rule 66. Rule 66 provides, amongst others, that no member may interrupt another member while speaking, except to call attention to a point of order or a question of privilege subject to Rule 92. These rules must be exercised with due regard to Rule 79. Which provides that a member may only speak when recognized by the presiding officer. Members would be aware that sometimes we have situations in the House where members would approach the microphones and attempt to address the chair at the same time. In other instances, this happens even while the chair is busy addressing the House. All of this is in breach of Rules 67 and 79, among others. In an effort to maintain order, the presiding officers asked members to raise their hands in order to draw the attention of the presiding officer. Members have complained that this approach is not applied evenly. Members have also indicated that it is sometimes not possible for the presiding officer to always see all the members when they raise their hands, especially from the back. We take these observations seriously, and as presiding officers, we have reflected on it. We have therefore decided that if a member wishes to raise a point of order, that the member should stand until he or she has been recognized by the chair. While the rules do not prescribe a procedure in these instances, we are confident that members standing to raise a point of order will assist in the smooth operation of the House. If there is a need to refine this approach, we are open to that, and the matter can be discussed in the appropriate forums. The second matter is switching off of microphones. On the issue of microphones, I do take the point that has been raised about the microphones, and therefore, as presiding officers, we always endeavor to inform honorable members before switching off their microphones. In this instance, the honorable members are correct that the member should have been informed. We do want to urge members, though, not to cite the rules selectively. The rule pertaining to microphones must be considered in the context of the other rules that are meant to deal with maintenance of order. In this regard, I do think that the matter of the control of microphones needs more attention, especially in the context of the circumstances that tend to prevail in this House. The third matter is the barring of doors during voting. The rule that provides that the doors are to be barred during voting has always been implemented by having officers block the entrances until voting is done. It has since come to the attention of the presiding officers that some members have pushed their way into the chamber after the doors were barred. Honorable members, I have since directed that the intention of this rule be achieved by locking the doors. This has some logistical implications, but as soon as these have been dealt with, the directive will be implemented. In other words, we do not yet have all keys to all the doors because we have 5 doors. So we have to sort that out. There's been one key that has been locking all the doors. So as soon as those logistics have been sorted out, we will be able to implement that rule. Honorable members, today we have a question session to the President, scheduled in terms of Rule 140, that provides that the President must answer oral questions in this House at least once per quarter per year. The Program Committee has scheduled oral questions to the President for today as required by the rules. I remind members that we have had numerous occasions when certain members attempted to prevent the President from addressing the House on these occasions. Among others, these were on the 21st of August 2014, 18th of June 2015, 17th March 2016, 4th May 2016, 17 May 2016, and 13th September 2016, when we had either questions to the President or debates involving the President. The members concerned have, among others, claimed that they do not recognize the President as a legitimate President. Honorable members, constitutionally, we have a President of the Republic. It is indeed the constitutional duty of the President to account to this House, and he does this by, among others, answering your oral questions once per quarter. He is here today to do exactly that. I therefore appeal for members' cooperation for today's question session to proceed without interruption so that the House can conduct its business of the day. I thank you. The only item on today's order paper is questions addressed to the President. Yes. Honorable Steenhuisen.
Madam Speaker, may I address you in terms of Rule 26 of the Rules of the National Assembly?
Go ahead.
Madam Speaker, you'll recall that the Leader of the Opposition wrote to you yesterday a letter indicating to you that given the events of the House yesterday, that it would be inappropriate for you to chair the session I don't want to have to raise my voice, you see.
Proceed, Honorable Steenhuisen.
But I don't want to be accused of shouting, you see. So as long as you can hear me, that's the main thing.
Order, honorable members. Let's listen to the Honorable Steenhuisen.
Thank you very much for your response to the Leader of the Opposition, and we are very encouraged by the paragraph in which you confirm that it is your duty to act fairly, impartially, and ensure that the rights of all parties, including minority parties, are protected. So we thank you for acknowledging that. We are also acknowledging the fact that there is a process that has been embarked upon this morning, arising from the Chief Whip's Forum and the Joint Rules Committee, and we will participate in those proceedings until their conclusion. But we would, however, urge you, Madam Speaker, today to be mindful of the words that you've expressed in this letter and ensure that the President is held properly accountable by this House, and that you respect not only the President, because he is also a constitutional office bearer, but also the Leader of the Opposition and other members of Parliament who also are constitutional office bearers. I would ask that their rights are upheld in this House today and the President is not unduly protected. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Steenhuisen. The Honourable, the Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Let's again say that we have confidence in your ability and capacity to run affairs of this House. And we know, Honourable Speaker, that you continue to run business of this House without any bias to any of the parties in this House. We are also in agreement with the process that has been started by the Joint Rules Committee on addressing whatever complaints that might arise from this House from time to time. And thank you for running this wonderful House in the manner you run it. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Chief Whip. Honourable members, as I was starting to say, the only item on today's order paper is questions addressed to the President. And to remind the members that you may press the talk button on your desks if you wish to ask a supplementary question. The first question has been asked by the Honourable C.T. Msimang, and I call upon the Honourable the President.
Honourable Speaker,
Yes, Honourable Kawama.
Honourable Speaker, I'm raising this point of order that you can at least warn the President that his unfaithfulness to the Constitution and his disobedience to the Constitution affects the decorum of this House. So I urge to, Honourable Speaker,
Honourable
that you
Kawama.
warn him that by disobeying our Constitution, he affects the decorum of this House.
Honourable
I can't
Kawama.
even talk.
Honourable Kawama.
These people, I have a right to be here. I'm protecting my Constitution. I don't care what you do.
Honourable Kawama, don't try and replace people who are not in this House right now. Can we proceed with the question session? Honourable the President.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Government is committed to ensure affordable higher education for all and to support poor and working class students to access higher education and training. Government supports that university fees should be regulated and be made available to all. No student should be denied access on the basis that their families are not able to afford fees. Njengohulumeni sifuna zonke izingane eziphuma emakhaya ampofu zikwazi ukufunda emayunivesi nasemakolishi emisebenzi. Asiphikisani neze nezicelo zabafundi zokuthi abasizwe uma imali ingekho yokufunda. Miningi imizamo eyenziwayo ukwenezezela kulesi sikhwama sokusiza abafundi esikoleni iNSFAS. After consultation with a wide range of stakeholders, including elected student leaders, government announced that all students at universities and technical and vocational education and training colleges from families with an income of up to 600,000 rand will experience a 0% fee increment in 2017. This includes the poor and so-called missing middle, who are students from households who have an annual income of between 120,000 and 20,000 rand and 600,000 rand. This follows the announcement of the Minister of Higher Education and Training on the 19th August 2016 that university fee adjustments for the 2017 academic year should be kept at 8% of the 2015 fees. No institution has announced a fee increment of more than 8%. Government will carry the fee increase through a gap funding grant on behalf of all poor, working class, and the missing middle families. I established a commission of inquiry into the feasibility of fee-free higher education and training in South Africa early this year. Today, I released its interim report to the public. The report covers the three following areas: an overview by stakeholders of the terms of reference of the Commission, post-school education and training in South Africa, and the funding of institutions of higher learning and training, and understanding their operational costs. The Commission has not yet addressed 5 areas, which are the nature, accessibility, and effectiveness of students' funding by government, private sector, and foreign aid, the meaning and content of fee-free higher education and training, alternative sources of funding. Social, economic, and financial implications of fee-free higher education and training, and the feasibility of providing fee-free higher education and training, and the extent of such provision. The final report is expected by 30th June 2017. I thank you, Madam Chair.
The Honorable Simang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Mr. President, for the reply. Indeed, this is the position that the government has been holding since the students started marching and even destroying properties at university. My concern is whether the students are buying into this offer. I'm asking this because they keep chanting the slogan of fees must fall. My question, Mr. President, is if they persist with this demand during the registration time, will this not lead to further destabilization of university education? And what will the government position be? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, the students demonstrated their determination to get the answer they wanted, that we should all say, yes, there's going to be free fees. But of course, as you know, a government has engaged the students. You'll recall that what led to the establishment of the commission to look at the feasibility of free education was as a result of the protests that took place towards the end of last year. It was as a result of the meeting that the President called of all stakeholders to discuss the matter, because it was not going to be simple to say, since the students are making this call, then the government must say fine, when it has not investigated the feasibility in the first instance. And that's why we established the commission. And we then said there will be no fee rise in 2016. Having not moved or met to discuss whether it will be possible to address the 2017, since the commission had not completed its work, the student just went on the demonstrations. And of course, once that happens, it created a difficult situation to negotiate. It also gave an impression as if we were doing nothing about the matter the students were raising, and yet we were. And of course, government was concerned about the protests that turned to be violent, leading even to the loss of life. That is why government established a task team to immediately engage the situation with an aim to stop violence, but also to talk to the students, as well as all stakeholders, to say this was not correct for us to move in the manner in which we were. The fact that the students were demanding that the answer from government should say we are agreed, we're not going to do so, because it's not an easy situation. It does not mean if the students were not paying, then indeed everything was free. Because what it means, government in particular will have to budget for that and pay for it. So it needed to be looked at in different ways. And indeed, the task team met with the students and met with a number of stakeholders and discussed the matter. And I think it succeeded because at the end, it was agreed that the students should go back to class and learn and write examinations. The reason why there were then announcements thereafter, as announced by the minister, was to say the matter is being considered. We will, at the end, have to look at the report of the commission and what provisions it brings to address the question of the students. There is no one view on this matter that you can just have free education just like that. What then will come as the solution? We are saying everybody should wait. There are other processes that are taking place, which once the commission is concluding its reports, we'll have to look at. And perhaps some of these initiatives will help the commission to sharpen its report. As to what government will do, I've just explained what it did this time around. All we are appealing is that the matter is being considered. We should be patient, we should wait and see what happens. One of the things that the government has done is to say there will be no child who will not go to school because the family has no money. That in itself is important for the students. For the students who are protesting, that we are not just ignoring the matter, but we want to get the lasting solution to the problem. Because as you know, education is our priority number one. We are not in conflict in terms of whether the children or the people should go to school or not. It's a question of how do we deal with the question of the cost. What made the students to protest, as they made the point, is that the fees were rising all at the time, and therefore making it impossible, in a sense, excluding those who are poor. And that's what led them to demonstrate. Now that the matter is being handled by government and everybody, the possibility to come with the agreed solution is very high. And we will call that people should be patient, because the matter is under consideration, and indeed a solution will come. What I've just said here, we are now saying 2017, we will also deal with it, given the fact that the commission has not completed the report. So the matter is not yet finalized, but there is no child who will not go to school. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Pozzoli.
Mr. President, your staff, in a dramatic last-minute Twitter dash, 5 minutes ago released the much-awaited interim report that you've just mentioned. We are disappointed in the findings of the report. It's only 8 pages long, but we're not surprised. It was set up in this commission as a sop to students, and it appears to be not really serious, and it has no experts on it. The interim findings simply say there's not enough money and lots of work is needed on finding more. We knew all of that. Mr. President, how do you plan on handling the huge wave of student protests, which will inevitably happen next year, as no solution will be found in time for the next round of fee increases in July 2017? Will you follow the recommendation of Mr. Gwedi Mantashe to close universities for months on end when the riots begin to teach students a lesson? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thought I've just explained, as I was talking here, what actions government has taken. I also dealt with 2017, that there will be no child who will not go to school because they don't have the money. Precisely because the Commission has not completed its job. And I can't here judge the Commission on the basis of its preliminary report. We are waiting to hear the final report of the Commission. I also said that there are other initiatives that are contributing towards the final report. So I think it will be not correct that we start debating the report that is not yet there, that we have not seen, and then say this report is not there, there are no experts and everything. Of course, people could hold their views about these matters. What we have done as government is to take the matter very seriously, and that's why we are ready to deal with 2017. I don't think if we deal with 2017 whilst the report is being completed, by ensuring that no child stays out of school, that will cause protests. Because the students know they will be able to go to school as they did in 2016. Because we are taking a responsible position. I don't think we can then debate that. Because I've just said, we are now saying, since the Commission has not finished, we'll have to take over the 2017. So why is a problem? Why there's a question? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable September.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon, Honourable President.
Proceed, Honorable September.
Honourable President, it seems like I must not greet you. May I ask firstly, Honourable President, what message do you have to those students who defied all odds and have confidence in the steps that government has taken and have gone to write their exams? What message do you have for them? Secondly, Honourable President, the National Development Plan sets out very clearly all the different aspects that government has to do and which many in this House have adopted in any event. It spells out very clearly to build technical capacity in education requires political consensus, and that there should be a national education pact ideally mobilized by the President. What progress, Honourable President, are being made to help to build consensus in this country? And may you inform this House on what steps are being taken in that regard? I thank you.
The Honourable the President.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Firstly, I would like to thank the students who, at a given time, appreciated what was being done nationally, not just by government only, but by all stakeholders, to plead with them to go back to school to write their examinations. So I would like to thank them and thank all the students who finally went back to schools. That was very important for the country, for the future of the country, because their education tells us that we are looking upon our future as the area where once we get there, we'll be ready to make a meaningful contribution to our country. And it will be as a result of us having heard the young people getting skills and empowered. So we thank them very much. With regard to what is happening now at the same time, because I think there is a general consensus that education must not be disrupted. It must be given an opportunity. If there are problems, let us find ways and means of addressing those problems. Other initiatives, leaving aside the commission, I think many people have taken initiative, individuals and groupings, to say, let us find a solution. And I think we are all working towards finding a common solution that will assist the country, all of us. And there is hard work going on, even if it's not necessarily reported in general. I'm confident that we will come to the consensus as a country, because we all say education is priority number one. So I would encourage those who are participating, who are spending time to help and contribute towards finding a solution. And I'm sure in due course, we will all accept what will come as a final thing. What is good about it is that the students themselves are participating in saying what is it that could be done going forward. I don't think we'll fail, particularly because people might have seen that really protesting and banning the very schools does not make a good sense. We want education, we want it free, but we ban the institutions. It's not logical. And these are matters that are being discussed, and I'm sure we'll certainly reach consensus. Thank you.
The Honorable Nchaisa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Mr. President, are there any proper plans in place for 2017 to determine whether a student is coming from a poor household or not? Because this seems to be a big challenge. Thank you very much.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I've actually repeated this in all the answers that I've given. I have said so. And perhaps for the benefit of the member, yes, there are plans, as I've said, that government is certain that there will be no child will remain outside. They will all go to school and continue whilst we are waiting for the final report. It is the government that will take care of those plans, and the plans are there. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We now come to question number 20, raised by the Honorable Olomisa. The Honorable the President.
Honorable Speaker, as the Cabinet and the Presidency have publicly stated on numerous occasions before Cabinet appointed the Ministers of Finance, Labor, and Mineral Resources to open a constructive engagement with the banks on the matter of the closure of bank accounts. The team reported back to Cabinet. No other mandate was given to this team of ministers. As we have stated before, the statement released by Minister Zwane does not represent the views of government and Cabinet. I reprimanded the minister for the remarks, and he apologized. You will remember that when I was answering questions here on this matter, I said I was going to engage the minister, and I did. and this matter is now closed. The minister has apologized. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Odomisa.
Madam Speaker, thank you, Mr. President. On the 2nd of September this year, you told the nation, I agree with what you have just said, you told the nation that the statement made by Minister Zwane was not representing presidency, the cabinet or government, and it is unfortunate. However, 5 days later, on the 7th of September, Minister Zwane said in this House, I quote, the Interministerial Committee made 5 recommendations to the Cabinet. 4 of the recommendations were approved, and 1 was referred to the President for further consideration, as it was not within the purview of Cabinet to take a decision on that matter. The question, what is the status of this recommendation, which was referred to you as reported by Honorable Minister?
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That recommendation is under consideration by the President. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Esther Rezen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable President. Mr. President, I heard what you said, the matter is now closed and thing, but so banking will always remain a voluntary and a private relationship between the bank and the client, and it can only be addressed by the parties concerned. Madam Speaker, neither Oak Bay nor the family that runs that companies have made public the real reasons the banks foreclosed on their account, and they were informed. They were definitely informed under the bank Confidential Bank Client Relationship Act. They were informed. Honourable President, banks are subject to supervision by the South African Reserve Bank, and as a service provider, also to the National Consumers Commission. And if any client feels that they were treated unfairly in any way, then they can report them to these bodies, which never happened. The simple fact is that Oak Bay never complained or reported any irregularities or any nature to this commission, to the Reserve Bank, as they did not want the reasons made public.
Do you have a question, Honourable Member? Your minute is over now.
Honourable President, won't you agree then, and with respect to your position, sir, that it's not yours, neither the Minister of Mineral Resources' place to break this Confidentiality Act unless you were party to the original contract. Thank you.
Honourable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't think there is anyone who questions the confidentiality between the client and the bank. I think many of us here deal with the banks under general, and there's nothing that becomes a national concern. I think the difference that we must make, if a number of banks act in the same way, simultaneously, not one bank, not 2 banks, including some financial institutions, to any ordinary person, that is not an ordinary act. It suggests that there is something. The banks can't act together on the same manner, in the same way. It gives a feeling that there is something going on here. Now, if you are a government, as government intervenes in many things, if it believes it is putting the image of the country into some problems. Bear in mind that the government has always continued to ask for private sector to invest, including the investors from outside of South Africa. If we're sitting at the level of government and you see an action of this nature, highly publicized, you have to say, what will the investors out there think of coming to invest in South Africa? If they think the banks can willy-nilly and act in a manner that suggests collusion about the economy of your country. As a government, you can't sit and say, I'm doing nothing. It was therefore absolutely correct, because if the investors don't come here because they fear the actions of the banks, the country will say, what is the government doing? We therefore needed to know what is happening. As a government, there's no law that says you cannot do so. You are talking about the bank and individual. Here, there was an action by a number of banks at the same time. It suggested there is something untoward here. And as government, we wanted constructively to interact with the banks to find out, what is this? What are they doing? Where has this come from? That was the reason. There is no government that can just sit, because any other company that would want to come to South Africa will say, sorry, I'm not going there, because if the banks are angry with me, they will collude and act together. We want to look into that matter and get to the bottom of it. Because we can't say any other time, any business person will be dealt with and the government just stand and look. It is not, we're not dealing with the company, we're dealing with the actions of the bank. That is what we're dealing with, and we'll continue to do so. We are responsible because we are a government of this country. There's nothing that sounds very suspicious that we are going to look at and do nothing. That's the reason why we acted on this one. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Mainir.
Mr. President, now, if there is one minister who should be sprayed with doom, it is the Minister of Mineral Resources, Mosebenzi Zwane, for issuing a midnight statement on behalf of the Guptas in his personal capacity, calling for an inquiry into the banks. And so my question is, why was the minister simply reprimanded and not fired? And why was the letter of reprimand not tabled in this parliament?
The Honorable, the President.
Well, any president in the world looked at the gravity of the matter, and the conclusion would not produce the same kind of action. There's nothing abnormal here. Ministers are reprimanded, and at times ministers could be taken out of their jobs. It depends on the thing that has been done. So we did the right thing. Reprimanded the minister apologized. What else do you need? Thank you very much.
The Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mr. President, I think you have actually responded to a previous question. But let me just say, Mr. President, do you believe that the closure of the bank accounts by several financial institutions was premature, given the fact that Oak Bay investments have not been proven to have violated any banking regulation to date? Mindful of the fact that Millions of rands are flowing into this country, into local bank accounts, by political parties to destabilize this country. Is there not, Mr. President, is there not an attempt by these imperialists to dictate and control the financial sector that they have done pre-apartheid days? Thank you, Mr.
The Honorable, the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That is precisely the reason why government cannot ignore such an action. The action looks suspicious. And as government responsible to govern this country, will certainly have to investigate what is this. And we started very politely by sending a team to meet the banks to say what is happening. The banks did not say, look, these are the faults that this company has done, or what led to our actions. So up to now, we don't know. We have laws in this country. If, let us say, any company violate the laws, there are enforcement institutions that you would report to. Just to stand willy-nilly and close simultaneously a number of banks as well as other financial institutions, it does not look innocent. And that's a problem. That's a problem we have. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We now come to question number 21, raised by the Honorable Khadebe. The Honorable, the President.
Honorable Speaker, our economic diplomacy strategy is informed by the National Development Plan and is designed to promote inclusive growth and the creation of jobs and economic opportunities for our people. We plan to achieve this by enhancing our ability to attract foreign and local investment, improve our export capabilities, and attract tourists to the country, among others. It is for this reason that we promote the 9-point plan, which is designed to promote growth in areas including energy, manufacturing, transport, telecommunications, water, tourism, the ocean economy, mining, agriculture, and the Industrial Policy Action Plan. It is also includes work such as managing workplace conflict, as correctly stated by the honorable member. Our economy is integrated into the global economy, makes South Africa vulnerable to currencies around the world. We are strengthening our diplomatic ties with our partners in the world so that when they make decisions that have serious economic consequences for us, they can do so with sufficient appreciation of the implications of their decisions for our economy. In this regard, our participation in global institutions such as the G20, BRICS, and the World Economic Forum remain critical and central to our strategy. Renewed efforts are also being made for further enhanced economic cooperation with various countries individually in Africa and other regions. The economic cluster is studying the implications of the so-called Brexit for our trade relations with the United Kingdom, which the honorable member has mentioned as an example. Let me emphasize that our relations with the United Kingdom remain very strong and cordial, and we will continue to work at deepening these relations further. We will continue to directly promote stronger economic cooperation while working to cushion our economy as well as from any adverse effects. Ultimately, the unity of all sectors and all our people will enable us to deal with global economic challenges that arise. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Khadebe.
Somlomo nomongameli ngiyabonga ngempendulo osinikeze yona. Ngiyathokozisa kakhulu ukuthi umbuso waseNingizimu Afrika ukhuluma ukuthi zonke izinhlaka zomphakathi kumele zibambisane, osomabhizinisi, abasebenzi, umbuso kanye ne-civil society ukuthi siphakamise umnotho waseNingizimu Afrika. Mongameli, into eyenzakalayo la umsebenzi omuhle owenzayo kunokuthi ucekeleke phasi. Ngenza umzekelo ngani na ukuthi njengoba sikhuluma manje lama wine lanka aseNingizimu Afrika ahlonishwa umhlaba wonke. Lena eEurope manje njengoba sikhuluma nje ayasuswa kuma shelf ngenxa yokuthi i-civil society yase-Nordic countries babonile ukuthi abasebenzi baseNingizimu Afrika ikakhulukazi la eWestern Cape kuma wine farms baphethwe njengezigqila. Manje umbuso wakho baba uzoyenzani ukuthi ucikelele ukuthi osomabhizinisi nabalimi baphatha abasebenzi kahle so that izinto zethu zizohlonishwa nangaphandle. Ngiyabonga baba.
The Honorable the President.
Ngiyabonga Somlomo. Ngibonga kakhulu umbuzo. Ngiyakhumbula ukuthi ilunga elihloniphekile lesishamthetho liyazi ukuthi sikhiphe inkulumo egxeke kakhulu lesimo esibonakala senziwa abaphethe amafama. Isimo esibonise isihluku nenzondo nokungasihloniphi nje isiqu somunye umuntu. Ukuthi umuntu athe phila afakwe eboxini labafileyo. Ngiye ngabona ukuthi hayi sengathi kusekhona ubukhulu kulelizwe. Njengabantu ke abenza amabhizinisi kusho ukuthi abasincedi kulokho uma kunamhlanje ngoba phela sekukhona izinto ezithwebulayo noma ungathi wenza into nina abantu bakhipha imishini emakhukhwini bayibukise leyo nto ibe sebeyithumela lonke izwe isiphoxe kakhulu ezweni lento kusho ukuthi sekuwomunye umsebenzi olunye utakatiyo kufanele basilungise manje sikhulume namazwi kwancenca ukuthi awungalidubi izwe lakithi kodwa futhi sikhulume nabakithi laba basenobuhlanga obuselihlaza obungeqiwe ngisho amanzi ukuthi hawu kwahleni bakwethu kusihlaza ngoba phela kusho ukuthi kuzothiwa namanje noma sekukhona umbuso wentando yeningi kodwa sekhona leyansila embi yobandlululo ifuna ukuthi ke sisuse sihlangane sonke thina abantu base South Africa ngoba ayinhle leyanto ebonwe izwe lonke uyabona nje ibonisa nokuthi kusho ukuthi lo mbuso wethu noma ukhona kodwa kusekhona abafuna ukuzenzela intando yabo mhlawumbe basebenzisa ukuthi ngoba iconstitution inhle noma bangenzani nje ngeke bahlale nasejele bazokhishwa ngebail yonke lonto angazi ukuthi laba bantu singathi ngempela bekwenze njani kubona benza isimanga esisimanga kodwa ke njengohulumeni sizokhuluma sibatshena abangaphandle ukuthi phela isekhona le yansila bakwethu siyayikhuculula msani ukuduba izwe sebenzani nathi sisaphethe sikhuculula imbulu le insila ngoba isekhona funa sipheka amanzi ashisayo yasiphucula yebo ngiyabonga somlongo.
The Honorable Hlengwa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Msholozi, South Africa is the UK's largest trading partner in Africa, even though trade has somewhat gone down, and South Africa is now the 7th largest export market, but it remains the largest source of foreign direct investment, and of course tourism is one of the key areas between the two countries. The South African brand is penetrating the British market across the board, and South Africa remains one of the top 20 exporters to the UK. The list is endless of the relationship between the two. UK being a strategic trade partner for South Africa, Mr. President, and given that Prime Minister May has indicated that she will trigger Article 15 May, in March rather, some 140 days from now, what is South Africa doing proactively to look at the deals that South Africa has with the EU and with the UK to ensure that we protect the gains that South Africa had made to consolidate those trade deals? So what are the proactive steps that are in place in terms of negotiating the deals with the UK and with the EU so that we don't wait for the process to actually start before we kickstart our own? Let's rather err on the side of caution. I thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, South Africa has relations, we have correctly put it, with the UK as well as the EU, very structured relations. What we are then doing is to engage these countries, as we always do, to try to deepen our relations with them, to grow the trade between the countries. With all the happenings that have happened, we are looking at them very closely, and we are having discussions whether those are interfering with our relations or not. And we'll continue to do so, because it is absolutely important that we maintain that economic relationship with the EU as well as the UK. So our job is to ensure that they are maintained. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Kado.
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. President, last Friday in the Pietermaritzburg City Hall, you said that South Africa was disliked by Western powers because our country is a member of the BRICS group of emerging economies, and that, furthermore, these Western powers wanted to, quote, dismantle the BRICS. Mr. President, which Western countries were you referring to? How do they plan on dismantling BRICS? And what will the effect of their actions be on our economic diplomacy with these Western countries over the next decade? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If the Speaker was listening very well, I said I've forgotten the names of these countries. Now, how can you think I'm going to remember here? What I was doing, Speaker, I was discussing the global political landscape as I know it. And I was not attacking anyone, making particularly the ANC members to understand what is happening today. And I was telling them what has happened, which I know. And all the time, and I traced the history, particularly of the ANC and the Western countries and then the Eastern countries during our struggle. I told the people I've forgotten the name. The critical point is that the world has views about a number of things. And I was saying there are things that are happening in this country, and I don't think a discussion in my political party taken in a particular way is a discussion that needs, because if the DA want me to come and analyze that, I can come to help you understand the balance of forces in the world. I will easily come to do so. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Atkinson.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, earlier this year you attended the World Economic Forum in Davos in Switzerland, and it's one of the preeminent meetings of world leaders and economic leaders to discuss economics in the world. What I'd like to ask of you is, what did you do at that meeting to help enhance South Africa's economic diplomacy? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In all the international fora, as well as the WEF, when we go there as a delegation from South Africa, we go there to promote the interests of this country, to ask the investors to come and invest in South Africa, to tell them about good opportunities in South Africa that they must exploit. That's what we do. We even have special sessions where we sit with them as the Team South Africa to present our country and say, come and invest. That's what we do. And we have been successful so far. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
We now come to question number 22, asked by the Honorable Swart of the ACDP. The Honorable the President.
Honorable Speaker, the reviews by rating agencies are important for the country. They form part of many monitoring mechanisms that encourage us to improve governance in both the public and private sector. In the continent, South Africa is a strong proponent of the African peer review mechanism, in which we submit reports and also engage the reports of other countries to encourage improvements in governance, to reignite growth and improve the global competitiveness of our country. We initiated active collaboration between government, business, and labor leaders. The purpose is to work together to reduce policy uncertainty, improve confidence in the country's ability to achieve inclusive growth. Progress has been made in this regard, and the following short-term measures are being implemented. 1.4 billion rand has been committed by the private sector to support small business enterprises. Companies have pledged to offer internships to 1 million young work seekers. The Independent Power Producer Program in renewable energy has attracted investments generating more than 2,500 megawatts of energy. The performance of some of our state-owned companies has improved, and work is continuing to support them. Cabinet has also approved specific frameworks relating to, amongst others, the appointment and remuneration of boards of directors in state-owned companies, as well as private sector participation in the state-owned companies. Efforts to introduce labor market reforms are also gaining momentum. The announcement by the Deputy President on progress made in negotiating the national minimum wage is a significant step in the right direction. We congratulate the Deputy President and his panel, as well as our social partners at NEDLEC for a job well done. This shows that when we work together, we can achieve a lot more. On the finance side, the 2016 medium-term budget policy statement adhered to the expenditure ceiling, announcing a further reduction of 26 billion rand in the spending ceiling over the next 2 years. The unforeseeable spending pressures, such as the increased university subsidies in 2016 to 17, were accommodated through the contingency reserve. We also remain to measure such as promoting infrastructure development as part of boosting the economy. We have budgeted over 987 billion rand for infrastructure development over the medium-term expenditure framework period, with continual large investments in energy, transport, and telecommunications. I believe we have indeed done a lot working together to create favorable conditions for economic growth and to stave off any downgrade. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Swart.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the ACDP appreciates all the efforts that have been made to date and have been indicated today by our government, business and labour, the Team South Africa approach to avoid a downgrade to junk status. This is something, as a proudly South African, we cannot and we will not allow to happen. Chairperson, Speaker, the toughest ratings agency, however, S&P, is set to deliver its next rating next week. Now, whilst growth prospects, the fiscal balance, external debt levels, and other things that are indicated, Honourable President, will be scrutinised by the agencies, one issue that they did mention was that for the first time ever, they felt obliged to highlight political risk and tension. Honourable President, do you not believe that the recent developments, including the tension between the Hawks, the NPA, and National Treasury, leading to trumped-up charges being filed and then dropped against the Finance Minister and others, and then the prima facie evidence and damning observations contained in the Public Protector State Capture Report will strengthen those perceptions about increasing political tensions? And if so, Honourable President, what are you able to do to allay those perceptions and avoid any chance of a sovereign downgrade, which we all stand together with you and government, we need to avoid at all costs? I thank you.
The Honourable the President.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I think the Honourable Member knows that we have worked very hard together in South Africa to grow our economy under very difficult conditions of global meltdown economically. And we have also worked with the institutions and agencies that downgrade countries or grade countries. And indeed, they've been here talking to a number of people to gain the knowledge as to how things are going. And you will know, economy and politics globally, there's always a movement. There are countries like UK, for an example, who took action and went to referendums, and there were political consequences. There are elections, have been just elections in the United States, where the United States people took their own decision, which has caused problems within the United States. So politics, they're all over. What is funny here is that South Africans highly politicize the rating agencies. That's a problem. There are many things that happen in the other countries that you do not even hear, that there have been ratings, etc. I can tell you France in September was downgraded. United Kingdom in June 2016, downgraded. Turkey in September, downgraded to junk status. Russia in January 2015, downgraded. United States of America in 2011, downgraded. Brazil in February 2016 to junk states. China in March 2016. You have never heard. But in South Africa, even if they've not arrived, it's a big issue. We are politicizing, downgrading. That is our problem. That is our problem. We have been working hard to meet them, and we are talking to them. As I say, they've been here. They will take their decision. After that, as they've been taking decisions to all other countries, big and small. The point I'm making is that we here tend to politicize things and therefore create a very big hype when this is not an issue to other people. I'm sure some of you, it's the first time to hear that there are countries that are in junk status. Well, because you didn't know. There was not a big issue. So we are ready to tell them the truth about the economic situation in the country. They will take their decision. What we've been doing all the time is to try to grow the economy of this country. And that's what we are doing. And we do give details to them, what we are doing. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Buthelezi.
Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Mulder, on what point are you rising?
I'm rising on a point of order in terms of Section 55(3) of the Constitution, ma'am.
Yes, Honorable.
With all due respect to the
You
Honorable...
can take a seat, Honorable President, while he is raising his point of order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. With all due respect to the President answered now in terms of what he said. But that was not the question asked by the Honorable Swart. With all due respect, the Honorable Swart asked from the President if the President is of the view that the charges by the NPA against the Minister of Finance may have had an influence. That was the question, and it was not answered at all, with all due respect.
Well, I'll give the President an opportunity if he wants to say anything in addition to how he has answered. He doesn't have to. Honorable President.
The question, Honorable Speaker, was asked to me, and I heard it very well. Question, as I was speaking here, here are the agencies coming to look at us with the aim of either creating it whatever way. Are the other issues, it was not just the one issue, a number of issues that were mentioned. I dealt with the issue that we in South Africa tend to politicize grading. And the issues that he was counting, those are issues that are very high political in the country. And that's the answer. We tend to politicize, to pick and choose what we think is a problem that the rating agencies will talk about. That's a problem. He even began to say they're already talking about it. But that's also answering the question. We politicize the issues in South Africa. How could you say I did not answer the question? I heard the question very clearly, and I answered the question very clearly.
The Honorable Buthelezi.
Speaker.
Honorable Buthelezi.
Speaker.
Honorable
Sorry
Waters.
to interrupt the President and Honorable Buthelezi, but could you inform the gallery not to participate in the
Yes,
proceedings? Thank you
indeed.
very much.
Honorable guests in the gallery, please don't participate. Honorable Buthelezi. Where is Honorable Buthelezi? At the back. Okay, there he is.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Sithokoze Mongameli ngokusitshela ukuthi uhulumeni kaKhongolo is on course ukuthi izimpilo zabantu zibe ngcono ngoba thina njengoKhongolo lokho sikubeka phambili. Your Excellency, the rating agencies S&P, Moody's, Fitch all have raised the issue of low economic growth in our country as a concern. They particularly pointed at the risk of load shedding. Bengicela Mongameli ukuthi ukukhulume nabantu base South Africa nathi la usitshele ukuthi uhulumeni kaKhongolo uswenzeni ukuzama ukuthi indaba kagesi ikwazi ukuthi yena ilungiseke. Ngiyathokoza Mongameli.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Njengoba benke ngasho lungu lendlu ehloniphekileyo ukuthi siyasebenza lapho kwenza impilo zabantu zibe ngcono. Uyokhumbula ukuthi ezinyangeni eziningi ezedlule lokucima kogesi ngaso sonke isikhathi okuthiwa phecelezi load shedding bekuyinkinga. Sase sithatha inqumo zokuthi sibhekane nakho ngqo. Akusekho manje kuphelile. Ikhalo ezazikhona ukuthi ezomnotho ziyalimala njalo njalo asekho. Lokho kubonakalisa ukuthi iSouth Africa iyakwazi ukwenza izinto ezibonakalayo. Akusesona isikhalo manje lesesesikhona ngoba kwakuthiwa iyona le eyenza ukuthi ezomnotho zingakhuli. Seyilungisiwe. Silungisa nokunye sikhulisa ngisho amandla kagesi ukuthi abe maningi kakhulu ukuze ungaphindi ube inkinga lapha eSouth Africa. Ngoba ugesi noma amandla kagesi abaluleke kakhulu empilweni zabantu nakwezomnotho. Ngicabanga ukuthi senza kahle kakhulu. Wonke umuntu uyawubonga uhulumeni ukuthi hawu naze nasiza nasiqedela iload shedding. Sayiqeda ngempela ngeke futhi iphinde ibe khona. Kusho ukuthi siyayazi into esiyenzayo. Ngiyabonga Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Mainir.
Thank you, Speaker. Before I ask my question, I think it's incumbent on me to recognize that the President has evidently been brushing up over the last couple of weeks on the 9-point plan. And so I'll congratulate him on his perfect rendition of the 9-point plan to boost economic growth and create jobs in South Africa. But Speaker, my question is this. Does the President share the view held by many in his party that the ratings agencies simply serve the interests of Western powers, and that is in fact why he supports the establishment of a BRICS ratings agency?
The Honorable the President.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I've given the answer here, which is very clear, that rating agencies rate all countries. The only issue is that in other countries, they don't politicize the work of the rating agencies. However, I'm sure the honorable member knows, there are views and views about economists. The economists do not have one view, even if they were in the Western countries or in whatever part. They've got views about the economy. They've got assumptions about the economy. Whatever assumptions they might have. Now, BRICS as a grouping that look at the world in a particular way has taken a decision to establish a kind of rating agency from another point of view economically. That's what is happening. Their point of view, I'm telling you that economists have got different point of views about one and the same issue. You know it very well. And I'm saying the BRICS have their own point of view of looking. They want to see those that have a particular point of view doing their own rating, in their own understanding, in their own approach. There's nothing wrong with that. What is your point of view? I've got my point of view. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Speaker.
The Honorable Shengwa.
Speaker.
Honorable Shengwa.
Sekuhlengwa lo.
Imina usesihlalweni mhlonipheki.
Ngiyathokoza Somlomo, bengifuna ukuthi ngalolu daba lukaMhlonishwa uButhelezi lapha emumva Somlomo kuze ngekuzayo ingabi khona into engcono ukuthi Buthelezi Junior kuze ingabi khona ukudideka. Msholozi, you have outlined a number of plans and initiatives and efforts that have been made. All of them are aimed at, of course, growing the economy and creating jobs. When you were elected in 2009, you promised 500,000 jobs. In that year, the economy lost 1 million jobs. The unemployment has gone up from 26% to 27.1%. The economic growth outlook has been revised to 0.5%. This speaks to an economic plan of your government administration that is not working. So what plans, Mr. President, do you have to ensure that we realize the ideals of job creation and ensuring that the economy actually grows? Because none of your efforts now have yielded any results which we can actually speak to if unemployment goes up and the economy is being revised downwards. So do you believe that the efforts of your government administration are making the desired headway in achieving what is actually needed and wanted by South Africans? I thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, I do believe that the efforts that you are making are working. Bear in mind that we have an economic slowdown globally. There is no economy that is growing more than others, except in terms of their size. Every country is faced with the economic challenges that face the world, even the biggest economy. So working within that situation, we've been able, for an example, while the statistics have come out to show the loss of jobs, but what you do not say, it also indicates the jobs that have been created under difficult circumstances. The statistics are there. I know that people always quote one side of the statistics, but it is because of the challenges that the world is faced with that the situation is what it is. We have provided a lot of efforts to grow the economy, including the, where is the member there who lacks 9-point plan? We brought it. We brought that as part of dealing with the economy, and it is working. It is working. The only thing, there is no country that can say we are out of the woods now in terms of the economic challenges. It doesn't mean that their policies are wrong. Well, whether they are correct, the environment is difficult. And that's what we are dealing with. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We now come to question number 23, asked by the Honorable Coleman. The President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We organize the Heads of Mission Conference once a year to brief our ambassadors and high commissioners representing us abroad on policy issues at home. The aim is to prepare them to accurately represent and promote the interests of the country abroad. The economic challenges facing the world necessitates an enhanced implementation of our economic programs, especially our economic diplomacy within Africa and the world at large. Through the 9-point plan that I have mentioned earlier, we are implementing ways of responding effectively to the persistent slow global economic growth. Challenges such as the decision of Britain to withdraw from the European Union and its possible impact on South Africa is also important and is being looked at carefully, as mentioned earlier. Other challenges in the environment have been the falling commodity prices, which have necessitated that we diversify our economy and improve the performance of sectors such as tourism, agriculture, beneficiation, and others. Another key aspect is the promotion of intra-Africa trade and regional integration so that we do not depend on markets beyond our continent only. This will also help to promote sustainable development in Africa. The establishment of free trade areas in the continent by the African Union is thus a key aspect of the continental economic strategy. The SADC region has also developed a region industrially. They've developed industrialization in its region, which augurs well for the future. Peace and security in the continent and beyond has a serious impact on economic growth and development and receives attention continuously. South Africa participates in peacekeeping and peacemaking missions in the continent, as well as understand the importance of peace and security for human development. Global peace and stability must also return to other regions and countries from Libya to Syria or Yemen and Palestine. Ultimately, we want to coexist peacefully and productively with our neighbors and economic partners all over the world. This will contribute to our goals of building a growing economy which creates jobs for our people. In this regard, the latest statistics which have reported that the unemployment rate is now 27% is cause for concern. This development makes us more determined to improve our collaboration with business, labor, and the community sector. We need to move together to cushion the economy and reignite growth. Government will continue to improve the environment, and the other parties will be encouraged to play their part as well for the good of the country. All these will contribute to the realization of the goals of the National Development Plan to promote growth and create much needed jobs. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, the Honorable Mahlalela will take the place of Honorable Coleman, who asked the original question. I would also like to take this opportunity to remind honorable members that your supplementary questions must be directly related to the original question and the answer given thereto, and may not constitute a totally new question. Honorable Mahlalela.
Angibonge Somlongo, ngibonge Mongameli. The world remains in the grips of economic crisis, despite signs of a tentative recovery. South Africa remains an important investment destination in the continent and the gateway for business in Africa. Honorable President, is it possible to explain whether there is a link between our diplomatic efforts and the transformation of our economy, as well as the general development of our people, as we strive towards the realization of our national democratic society, as well as whether there are efforts with these missions to contribute in research, resource, technology, as a way of supporting industrialization, beneficiation, and agro-processing in our country in order to create jobs and deal with the challenges of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. Thanks very much.
The Honorable, the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, there is a link between and among the issues you mentioned. That is precisely the reason why our representatives in different countries and different regions in the world always come back so that we could have that engagement. When they are here, we give them an opportunity that different departments, particularly departments that relate to the economic growth, to go and engage and brief our high commissioners and ambassadors, to tell them where we are and what are things that we think they need to do to ensure that the economic relations with those countries grow. We also, of course, are keen to hear from them the views about the regions or the countries where they come from. What are the situations? What is it that they think we need to do? Particularly because South Africa is a very attractive country globally. It's one of the countries that have a huge number of diplomatic corps in South Africa. And therefore we want to exploit that in the countries where we are able to present South Africa as the investment destination. That is what we talk to them about, and then look at specific areas that we think we could relate with those countries. So it is linked together. And they are not just representing us only. They are actually saying South Africa is the best country for investment. That is what we do, and it is giving us benefits. because they are able to indicate to the other countries what are the opportunities in South Africa that they could go to. And indeed, part of the reason that we do get the foreign direct investments is because partly of the work that our missions do. So yes, it is all connected. It's political relations as well as economic relations in the main. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Hill Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and Mr. President. Mr. President, since you became the President in 2009, we have dropped in ranking in almost every global measure of competitiveness, including the one mentioned in this question. For example, we have dropped a full 40 places in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business report, from 34th position in 2009 to 74th position this year. Last year, we dropped in foreign direct investment by a full 74% in 1 year. Now, Mr. President, there are many reasons why this has happened. I can think of at least 783. But one reason you definitely cannot use is the global economy. Every other country mentioned in these rankings has faced the same constraint, and yet comparatively, we have lost ground massively. So my question, Mr. President, is what specifically are you doing in government to improve our rankings on these critical measures? And Mr. President, in your reply, if you could be very specific and refer to the categories of measurement used in, for example, the World Bank Ease of Doing Business reports. Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think ever since we started dealing with these questions, I've been actually answering that question in reality. Because I've said, what is it that we are doing economically? What kind of programs are putting in place against a very heavy situation of the economy? In fact, there are countries, very big countries, that were sitting below the line for a long time because of the economic meltdown. It is only now, globally, that people are beginning to see the signs that we could be growing now. South Africa is not the only country that has faced difficulties. All the countries, of course, other countries have grown up, and because of the challenges that are there, if the economy is not growing at a rate at which we wanted to, you can't then expect the country to be colorful, because we are dealing with difficult situations, particularly South Africa. Because South Africa has a very peculiar history that in everything we do, it shows itself. This old scar shows itself. We're dealing, for an example, with the issue of education earlier. The reason we've got a problem of education is because the education system before '94 was crooked. We are trying to solve all of those problems which other countries don't have to solve. I know that when people compare South Africa to its same-sized countries, forget that fact, that the greater majority of this country were excluded from skills development and empowerment. Those are the problems that we are faced with now. That's a difference from other countries. That's why South Africa, you can identify things that are not like in other countries. We have a problem which other countries don't have. They had good systems. Everybody was at school. Here, it was not. Other people were closed out. Who are a majority? Who could be contributing massively to the economy of this country? That's a problem. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable McPherson.
Mr. President, you seem to be forgetting quite a lot these days, so I want to help you remember a few crucial things. When you said that all the countries in the world fit into Africa, that you, in the last question session, when you couldn't name your 9-point plan, and I'm glad to see with the help of a piece of paper you did so today, that your government aided and abetted a man wanted for genocide, Omar al-Bashir, to escape the country in spite of a court order, and that since you assumed office, the GDP of this country has declined every single year and 1.5 million more people are unemployed. And of course, foreign direct investment is down 74% year on year. So, Mr. President, my question to you is, how can your government be believed with anything relating to diplomatic, trade and security issues when you have such a poor record on all of them?
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, honorable members have different views on matters because he's repeating the question that was asked by his colleague. And the answer is the same that I'm going to give. The challenges of this country for today are based in this country yesterday. This country did not educate its majority who would be participating in the economy today. The economy was run wrongly. That was the thing. And therefore, we are dealing not just with the economic meltdown, we are dealing with our history as well, which was distorted. That's why some difficulties that we have faced, other countries don't face. That's a point. That is an account. I can, if we had time, I could sit down and count to you what are these gaps. Because no matter what we say, the scar still shows. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Mwango.
Shalozo Mkhulu. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. President, you stated in your address to heads of mission recently that, and I quote, "The economy remains the apex priority, and we want to achieve inclusive growth, jobs, and a decent life for our people," close quote. What efforts, Mr. President, are you doing to reassure foreign investors that South Africa has a stable political climate and is a safe investment? Would you not say that our domestic environment is currently more volatile than the international arena? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I said earlier, situations change. They become volatile at times not volatile. There are places in the world that are more volatile than any other. If you take the wars in Syria, Libya, etc., and those have been caused by people. When I explain to people the South African situation, I always say we have a democracy in South Africa. And in democracy, people are free to express themselves. And at times, people mistake that as a volatile situation. I can tell you, of course, it depends how people understand democracy and how far they take democracy. In our own house, when I go around, people ask, what is happening in South Africa? We see people there in our parliament. And I say, it's democracy. We have democracy where people can stand and talk. In places where there is no democracy, you can't even see what is happening, because nobody is going to speak. It is the manner in which we handle our democracy that seems to look like there's a volatile situation. It's democracy. That's how we want it. I wouldn't say people think that South Africa is a volatile situation. They know there are different views. We are outspoken. We don't keep quiet. We talk about everything. That's democracy. It does not translate into volatility. It's not. It's democratic process that we have all accepted, that people can stand up, say what they want, use even insults, tell lies. It's democracy. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We now come to the last question raised by the Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition, to the President. The Honorable, the President.
Honorable Speaker, according to Section 34 of the Constitution of the Republic, everyone has the right to take any dispute to court or to another independent and impartial tribunal or forum. That right extends to Ministers Van Rooyen and Zwana. They do not need my permission to exercise this constitutional right. I thank you.
The Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition. Order, honorable members.
Mr. Zuma,
Order, honorable members. Please proceed, Honorable Maimane.
The Executive Members Ethics Act, which was signed into law by a Mr. J.G. Zuma when you were acting president, states that no member can willfully mislead the legislature they account to. On the 25th of October, you went into the National Council of Provinces and was asked the question, why did you seek to interdict the state of capture report? To which you responded, and I'd like to quote it. You said, I interdicted it because she, Ayatuli Madonsela, was going to issue the report having not talked to me or asked me any questions. Now, on the 6th of October, she released the state of capture report, to which outlines an interaction between you and herself in a number of hours where she spoke to you, which was 3 weeks before you arrived at the National Council of Provinces. My question more specifically is that why, Mr. President, it's clear to me that there's a contradiction between what in fact happened and what you said. I want to understand, why did you deliberately mislead the National Council of Provinces and violate the very law you signed into law? Clearly, there's a blatant contradiction, and I'd like to know why you willfully misled the people of this country. Thank you very much.
The Honorable, the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I never misled anyone. Never. Lalela, ngulalelile nami. Lalela. If people did not hear properly, the public protector wrote a letter to me in March. In that letter, she was reporting that DA and others have raised the matter or brought a complaint about the state capture. She is still evaluating the report. If I want to comment, I can. That was a letter, which later she admitted it was not sent in March, it was sent in April. That letter did not say I must answer questions. There were no questions. Then later, About 2 or 3 days before that, she then wrote another letter asking for a meeting to brief me about where her work on this matter is. And I prepared to wait to listen to the briefing. 2 or 3 days before the meeting, she then said, "You will have to answer questions." I had not received any question up to that point. We then had a meeting with her. And I said to her, procedurally, I'm not in a position to answer questions because she sent documents of complaints, not questions, not questions. And I said, in the meeting that we had, whatever, I don't know what we are holding there. I said, ngikulalelile mawukhuluma, lalela mina. We spent 4 hours arguing, and I was saying that is not fair. Because if you wanted me to answer questions, you should have sent the questions. I will read and prepare the answers. Then, that's what the procedure is, if you don't know. We then argued on that point with her. In the process of the argument, she produced questions, which I was seeing for the first time. She read the questions. And I said, I need to prepare. In the first instance, she has never told me I was being investigated. As I've said, what her letters were saying to me. First, she was informing me. The second letter, she was coming to brief me, not to ask questions. That is a discussion. And that's what that discussion will say. She said, answer the questions. I said, no, I'm not going to answer these questions. She said, but we have answered these questions in public. I said, yes. I said, if a journalist asks a question, it's a different matter. If a friend or whoever. But if it is a public protector or a judge or a magistrate, it's a different matter. You need to prepare. Because the intention of asking the question by a journalist or a public protector is not the same. The journalist wants to write the story, end of the story. The public protector, the judge, they want to ask the question to make a finding. That is a different matter. That is a debate I had with these people. I did not mislead anyone.
Is the Honorable President done?
I'm done.
Yes. Honorable Filtane.
Madam Speaker.
On what point are you rising, Honorable
Madam Speaker, it's the third time we've had to rise to ask you to please get the gallery under control. When there's members...
Order, honorable members. May I remind the gallery, please not to clap your hands, because we have respectfully always asked that you do not participate in the goings on in the House. Thank you very much. Honorable Filtane.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Good afternoon, Mr. President.
Good afternoon, Honorable Member.
All animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. Somebody once wrote. You two most recently, the two ministers mentioned in the main question are the most recently appointed ones. So in a sense, one would say they are equal to even those that were appointed a long time ago. Now, my understanding is that Cabinet works as a collective, but you are heading the team. Question is, why would you not have considered it prudent, politically and otherwise, to give them legal advice when the media was all over them at the time?
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. No, firstly, I know no law. I can't advise on matters, on legal matters. I can't. And secondly, if anyone has challenges from the institutions of law, they've got to deal with that matter. I think you have lawyers who are better placed to deal with that matter. It's not the first time. There have been a number of ministers who have had challenges dealing with a number of matters. I don't come. As a president, I can't be an advisor legally of the ministers. We have legal advice, including state law advisors, who must do that, really. So I can't even say political or otherwise. It's just I can't do it. And unless they were coming to seek political advice, which I will give because I know politics. That's my area. I advise more. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Singh.
Ngiyabonga Somlomo. Shalos, Honorable President. One of the areas of contestation for the release of the report was what you referred to earlier on, and that's the non-application of the Audi Ultram Partem rule. Now, we noted that when the report was released, the chairman of ESCOM in particular and the CEO indicated that they were not given an opportunity to respond to some of the findings in the report. Now, we do know, Honorable President, that ESCOM is a very strategic state-owned enterprise in our country. As Honorable Junior Buthelezi said earlier on, they produce e-gas and there's no load shedding. Now, given the fact that there is prima facie evidence of certain allegations and wrongdoings within ESCOM and certain business people, will you not consider, Honorable President, in terms of your constitutional powers, to appoint a commission of inquiry to deal with those matters so that all parties that have been accused or the accusers can come before a judge and deal with the facts of the matter? Because ESCOM is an organization that borrows money from national and international organizations, and we want their credibility to be maintained. So what is your view towards appointing this commission of inquiry, remedial action or not? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Firstly, as I said, you heard me telling my story, how I was treated in the process of this report. And secondly, the report, if a report has been investigated, the culture is that there is a preliminary report or provisional report wherein those accused are given an opportunity to look at it and respond, and then a final report. This report has been dealt with in a very funny way. Very funny, in my view. It affected me and many. No fairness at all. Now, the manner in which, therefore, the report comes in and make the recommendations is a matter that concerns some of us who are mentioned there. We would want that work to be done properly. And that's why we are working on it. That's why I can't go further than that, because I can't then jump when I have these views to establish a commission. Even the manner in which the recommendation is, it is the president who has the right to appoint a commission. No one, no matter what position they hold, can instruct the president to establish a commission and even tell the process through which you must go. It's very funny. I've never heard of it. So that's a problem that we are faced with in regard to this report. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. President, now that you have made it abundantly clear that you're not a legal fundi, I won't pose any legal questions to you. Mr. President, legal advice was sought, legal advice was given, this matter went to court. And clearly it is now abundantly clear that that legal advice and the decision to go to court was an incorrect one. Would you perhaps be able to ensure that these legal advisors that took the matter to court at the expense of the taxpayers, would you be able to ensure that we recover this money from the legal advisors that perhaps gave incorrect legal advice to go to court in this matter? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Well, I don't know. When there are litigations, people go to court, they give advice, whatever grounds they have. And that's why in courts, there are decisions later. We should prove that point. But if we are faced with the situation, we are not a lawyer, and the lawyer says, we can fight this, you have to. If you feel dissatisfied about the manner in which either the process has been undertaken or the kind of conclusion is not right. I don't think you can just say, me, I'm not going to take any legal action, because you don't know the outcome. You are faced with a challenge. You have got to deal with the challenge in front of you. And at times, once you are in court, you realize something, and you are advised by your lawyers that this is a direction to take, not this one. And it happens all the time. So I see nothing wrong with people being advised to go to court and lose, perhaps, at times win. I don't think there is anyone who knows when the case starts that they are going to win the case or lose the case. It is at the final end, when the judgment is given, that you know I've lost or I've won. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
That concludes questions to the President. I thank the Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
That also concludes the business for the day. The House is adjourned.
You're watching live visuals out of the National Assembly this afternoon from Cape Town, the mother city. Now, overall, a much more temperate, a calmer mood in the House than we had on some days earlier this year of 2016. As expected, the State of Capture report did come up with DA leader Musi Maimane asking the President why he misled the country. Well, President Zuma went on to explain that he did indeed receive 2 letters from the Public Protector, one to inform him that there was a complaint of state capture from the DA, and the other wanting to brief him. He says it was during this briefing or meeting specifically that the Public Protector, that he was read those questions for the very first time, and he was not given prior opportunity to study them, which is procedurally incorrect. Now, also coming up, accessing and affordability of higher education was first up on the agenda. President Zuma reiterating government's commitment to ensure affordable tertiary education. On how government will handle future protests, he said more thorough engagement with all relevant stakeholders is indeed ongoing. Also coming up with ratings agencies and their gradings of the South African economy. The President saying that these ratings agencies have become greatly politicized in South Africa. He also rightly points out that much of the challenges faced in our country today are firmly rooted in a skewed economy born out of the apartheid era. And he reiterates that the NDP and its 9-point plan to grow the economy, keeping in mind that the global economy is indeed in decline. Earlier, Speaker Baleka Mbete kicked off these proceedings with some housekeeping rules, reminding MPs of the rules of engagement and to keep all of the interactions